welcome to English Between with Teacher Amy. Today I have a special guest because I have my dad here. I have my dad here to have a conversation. So this is my dad. His name is Guy. Is that what you would like to be called on YouTube, Dad?
Guy. Yes, Guy. Yep, it's my real name.
Okay. So his name is Guy. So we say Guy just to call just any person, basically, especially a male, but also we say, hey, you guys, right? And that's kind of for everyone, but his name is actually Guy. So I have my dad here and I'm going to be asking him some questions because he has kind of an interesting life. International traveler. So at the end of this at the end of this interview, you'll be able to find some comprehension questions to see how well you understood. Are you ready, Dad?
Yes, I am ready.
So the first question is, where are you?
Well, presently I am in the country of Singapore. It is my first international trip in over 2 years. So it's great to be back overseas again.
2 years? Really? It's been that long?
Yes, because of the pandemic, there has not been very much international travel. So my first trip. Yep.
So how do you like Singapore? It's your first? No, it's not your first time there, right?
It's my third time here, but the first 2 times I came were very brief. So this time I'm actually staying about a month and I'm getting to see some places, and it's a really fascinating country. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. So I saw something. So your birthday was just a couple days ago, and you sent me a picture of, what was it? A boat on top of the building?
Yeah, it was like these 3 towers, and it was like a boat shape. I guess it's supposed to simulate a boat that sits on top of the 3 towers. And there's a pool, a swimming pool called the Infinity Pool. And if you're looking at it from the inside, it looks like when you swim, if you go too far, you will go over the edge, like down 60 floors.
So it looks like a boat on top of a building, but it's not actually a boat.
It's not actually a boat. It just has the shape.
Swimming pool.
Has the shape of a boat. Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you can see down, like towards the floor, like towards the ground.
If you go to it's the top of it's 3 buildings, 1, 2, 3. The boat sits on all 3, so it touches all 3.
Oh,
and if you walk to the edge of the boat, you can see all the way down. Yes.
Oh my gosh. I think I would be too scared to do that. I think that'd be crazy.
It's about 60 floors. So it's one of the tallest buildings in Singapore.
Okay. Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Well, that's awesome. So would you just briefly talk about, I guess, what your job was before the pandemic? Because, as you said, like before the pandemic, you were doing a lot of things. And then after you got stuck, in the house for a long time.
Yes.
So what were you doing?
Okay. So before the pandemic, I was running and still run a cross-cultural leadership development company, primarily focused in China, although I did quite a bit in India in the past, and I've been all over the world, but primarily my work now is focused in China. So I would bring Americans to China and we would speak at universities. We call them voluntourism trips. So the Americans,
it's like voluntary plus tourist.
Yes. So
tourism.
They would volunteer, but they'd also tour at the same time. A lot of Americans really like to do that. They like to see a country, but they also want to give, like they want to do something that's that volunteers that's helping. So we would speak at universities on areas of expertise. And then I also bring Chinese students to the USA for leadership development programs I run in the winter and the summer. So because of the pandemic, almost all of my work has now gone online.
So what kind of areas of expertise then? Like when you took Americans over, it was kind of everything, right? It was a huge variety of topics from a lot of different professionals.
Yes, we really focus on university students. So we're doing things to help them prepare for the future. So a lot of career preparation, like job interview training, knowing yourself well, how to interview, how to get along with other people in the workplace, how to build a resume, how to become a leader, those kind of things.
Okay. And so how many Chinese universities do you know have you partnered with?
Oh, probably over the years, maybe 100, many universities all over, especially Eastern China, but some in Western China as well.
Yeah. So you said India too. I have a lot of followers from India as well. Was that was kind of just a few, right? It was just a few universities in India.
Yeah, mostly in Mumbai. I went to Mumbai a number of times, and we did some leadership events at a number of universities in Mumbai. I've also been to Bangalore, but mostly I was in Mumbai and enjoyed that a lot too. Everybody in India can dance. It's amazing. Really amazing.
And no one here can. At least I can't.
Yeah, I went to a talent show in India. It was a university talent show, and it just became a dance party. Like everybody was dancing, and they were so good at it. So I was amazed.
That's awesome. So, do you know how many countries you've been to?
I think at least over 30. At least over 30.
Wow.
I haven't done a count recently, but yes, many.
Over 30. So before I ask the next question, what was kind of the biggest culture shock? Where did you go that was, I don't know, that you would say was just the most different than the US?
Yes. When I first started traveling internationally, everything was very different. It felt really different. But now that I look back, some things were not that different. But a country that stands out to me as being very different culturally to me was Uzbekistan. Oh, I also went to North Korea, which
I wasn't sure if you were going to say that or not. So
I can say that.
I didn't want to prod. Uzbekistan, yeah, you went to North Korea once.
Yes, but Uzbekistan was, North Korea was interesting. I won't say much about it, but in terms of, you asked the question, which was culturally felt very different to me. Uzbekistan just felt really different.
Wow. Okay. When did you go there? That was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yes. Probably in the early 2000s sometime. I don't remember exactly when, but I think I went to a wedding. And the night before the wedding and the wedding, it was just so radically different than how we do weddings in the USA. And I think it really became clear to me, wow, this is very different culturally.
Yeah, that's so cool. So yeah, Dad, so just talk a little bit about, because we talked a little bit about your, what you're doing now and stuff, but talk about where you started a little bit. So this is your life now. I know growing up, you and Mom were very, you got me out of the country a lot. I was able to travel quite a bit. I have not traveled like you have traveled, but you kind of got me international. We were, our family is a very international family. I don't know. Mm-hmm. We were able to travel a lot. But you started in a place that was very isolated. So
Yes.
you want to talk
Yes.
about that a little bit, where you came from? That'd be
Yes.
interesting culturally too.
Yes. So I grew up in the state of Montana. Montana is pretty remote uh, in the USA, considered very remote. There is about 1 million people in the entire state, and
It's huge.
it's the fourth largest state. So there's not a lot of people. People are spread out. And I grew up about an hour from Idaho and an hour from Canada. I could drive to Canada in 1 hour, so way up in the north, and very isolated. We didn't have people that looked different than us. Everybody was white skin. Everybody spoke English as their native language. So
Mm.
it was very isolated, very different. And when I was growing up, I thought my dream kind of basically was, I'm gonna go to university, I'm gonna get my training, and I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna teach and I'm gonna coach somewhere in Montana, maybe my hometown. So I loved it
Yeah.
there. But I guess when I got
Love it
away,
there.
I did. I loved it. It's beautiful. But when I went to the university, that's when I started seeing different places, learning more about the world, and I became very interested in the world. And when I was a university student, it was not common for university students to travel internationally. It was not normal. That wasn't the
Mhm.
norm. And now, like with my daughter, so many travel internationally. That's something they just routinely do. But when I was a student, people were not doing that. Uh,
Mm.
so the first time I actually had a chance to go, I really was eager to see the world. And once I went the first time after the university, we caught the bug. We like to say I caught the bug. I fell in love with international travel and cultures, and just wanted to see more and experience more, just like Amy did.
Yep. Yep. That's awesome. When was your first trip? Which trip was it? Was it the China trip, or was it early? It must
No,
have been earlier.
yeah, 19, well, I won't say the year. uh, that would date me. My first trip was to the country of Bulgaria in Eastern Europe. I went to a
Oh
I went to a number of places in Eastern Europe about the time that Amy was born. That was my first international trip.
yeah.
It
Yes.
was right around that time.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that now. I remember a Bulgaria trip at least. So you went a couple times.
Yes, and I went to so all over Eastern Europe, like the Black
Yeah.
Sea, the former Czechoslovakia, Hungary. Saw a number of those countries at that
Yeah.
time. Yep.
Awesome. So then my last question is, I guess from your experience of traveling and having been so isolated, what are some of the cultural lessons that you've learned, or yeah, just things that stand out to you? It could be, some things about, I don't know, learn how to adjust to culture, or differences, things you had to change maybe about yourself when you were discovering more about culture.
Hmm. There's so many, Amy. It's hard to narrow down. I would definitely say, and I don't know that a lot of people think about this, but uh, international travel changes you as a person. So it's like, as an American, many times you feel like you grow up feeling like, well, America, this is the only way, this is the right
Yeah.
way. And then you go to another country and you start to appreciate and you go, wow, they do things different. And I kind of like that. I like that. Like there's elements of other cultures that you actually start to like, and you think, I want to incorporate that. I want that to be part of me. And so after you've traveled internationally a lot, you're not truly all American, but you're definitely not a foreigner, but you kind of look like somebody in between. I guess it's like you become an international citizen. You've learned to adapt and be flexible and appreciate and even assimilate some of the qualities of cultures that you've been exposed to. And I love that. I think international travel has made me a better person, a better man, a better leader, because I've experienced all these different cultures. So that has been big. Probably one of the best lessons I ever learned was something that was shared with me in a class. I thought it was pretty profound, interesting. But in America, we are taught something called the Golden Rule, which says treat people the way you want to be treated. And it's easy to treat people the way you want to be treated when you are that culture. Like, I'm an American. I know how Americans want to be treated. But I spend a lot of time in China, and Chinese people don't always want to be treated the way Americans do. It's very different culture. And so the rule that I was exposed to, or somebody taught me, was something called the Platinum Rule, which says, don't treat people the way you want to be treated, treat them the way they want to be treated. And so as you travel internationally, you want to be a student, you want to be curious, you want to find a mentor in the other culture, to ask questions. So you want to learn how other people want to be treated. You want to just treat them the way you want to be treated, because it may not be the way they want to be treated.
Yeah.
So I think it's always good to learn, always be good to be curious, always to ask questions, and that will help you adapt. So those have been huge for me. Big, big principles.
Yeah. I really liked what you said about becoming more of an international citizen. This is something that I talk about a lot, or have said a lot, is that when it's, similar to learning a new language, because when you learn a new language, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can understand all these things that I didn't understand before. It's like a new world is what there's a quote. I can't remember who said it, but there's a quote from someone famous who said, essentially, learn a new language, enter a new world. Like, it opens up a new world. That's what it's like. It's a similar experience, because once you start having access to a culture that you didn't previously have access to, that's very meaningful, and it does change you. Definitely.
Agreed.
Oh,
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. If you enjoyed this interview, let me know, because I would love to do more interviews with interesting people, not just family members. And yeah, so please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned for some questions that you can answer about this interview.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Teacher Amy.